is someone that is going to primarily be a guard, and you were just saying how they signed Will Freeze and they've kind of addressed the interior offensive line. Obviously, they're doubling down and kind of going for the Eagles method of team building, making a strength stronger, and you don't really want to subject McCarthy to a bad offensive line. I think you could have got an interior offensive lineman later in the draft. I think there's some really good players on the board. It wasn't that the Vikings had any glaring needs. I think it's right to build around their young quarterback. And Donovan Jackson does offer kind of swing tackle ability. He can play guard. He can play tackle.
Trade!
No!
Trade!
No!
Trade! Trade! The New York Giants are back into the first round, up to pick number 25.
Is that us?
I am really sorry to Minnesota Vikings fans. Look, you picked a left guard. I'm not sure it was the right decision. He did play a lot of tackle last year, so he has got some versatility. That's nice. It might end up being a really solid pick. I thought he should have gone defense. The Houston Texans have traded out of the first round of the draft with the New York Giants. A man desperately next to me Googling to try and find out what the compensation is.
I've got it for you here, guys, in the war room. I'm in the war room. I've got it for you here. The Texans trade in 25 for the Giants. It's in exchange for 34.99 and a third rounder in 2026.
I told you, it's going to be cheap to trade up to get back into that round. I think that I don't hate the Texans getting that extra pick early in the second round because they'll still get a good player there, but there's some good players on the board.
We need offensive line. We got rid of Laramie Tunsil. We have the worst offensive line in the league. And Josh Simmons is on the board. Josh Connolly's on the board. I'm not mad about either of those guys, but if you
I love Josh Simmons. Without the injury, I think he could be the best tackle in this draft.
At this point, I wouldn't hate him at all. To get a starting caliber tackle at 25 is fantastic, but that doesn't matter anymore because we're not picking at 25. We've gone down past the Chiefs, who are going to draft an offensive lineman, you'd think, because they lost the Super Bowl because they had a bad offensive line. What do we? This team building is terrible. To trade Tunsil and then to trade down from drafting an offensive lineman is bonkers. But now, I mean, obviously the Giants have traded up. Is it Sanders? Is it Dart?
Maybe it's not going to be a quarterback at all.
Yeah.
Well, I was just going to ask Will. I was just going to jump in and ask you, Dom. You don't seem confident that either Simmons or Josh Connolly will be on the board by 34. Is that right? Or do you think one of them might be, and it's more the disappointment that you don't get that choice?
I think one of them might be. Maybe the injury is more of an issue with Josh Simmons than perhaps we were able to know if he's fallen this far, because I think he is potentially one of the best tackles in this class, but it is just a case of that injury. But when you're picking after the Chiefs, who had to start Joe Tooney at left tackle, who got dog-walked by Jalix Hunt because Joe Tooney is a guard with short arms, I think that really exposes you. And we got a quarterback like CJ Stroud, who is a pocket passing quarterback and who really didn't have a good year last year because our offensive line took a step back. So I think that is quite the choice there. And I know the Giants are picking at 34. It's, that's the Texans pick now. It's not the end of the world, but I think it's quite something to trade below the Eagles, the Chiefs, who are almost definitely going to draft a tackle.
I was just going to say here, the fact that the Giants have decided to trade to 25, it seems that the Steelers had their choice. They had their chance at 21 if they wanted to take a quarterback, Shador, whether it's Dart, they decided not to. So who do you think they're most concerned about, the fact that they've had to trade back into the first to potentially get their guy, if that's what the pick's going to be made? Is it the Browns in the second round? Is that the fear?
I think it's all about the Rams at 26.
Right.
The Rams were linked with quarterbacks left, right and centre. And a little bit like with the Steelers, and we thought that 20 might be an interesting point with the Broncos, I think it's let's get above the Rams at 26.
But then it's going to be Dart, because they're not taking Sanders there, surely.
Milroe?
I don't know.
Milroe.
I don't know, because Sanders fits. I would say it's much more consistent. We are talking about a man who was relatively willing to let Matthew Stafford leave because he believed Jimmy Garoppolo could take them all the way. And yes, Jimmy Garoppolo's been to a Super Bowl, and yes, it was under the same coaching tree and everything, the Mike Shanahan coaching tree. But I think that
this is exciting.
Maybe we see back-to-back quarterbacks go off here. Maybe we see Sanders and Dart go back-to-back to the Giants and to the Rams. The Rams have drafted sensationally over the last 2 years.
Oh,
right?
my God, yeah.
Their first their first and second round picks over the last 2 seasons have been as good as anyone else. And in the pairing up and in the getting the pass rush and in sorting out the interior of their offensive line, they've done brilliantly. They might feel like they can make a splash, like they can do something a bit wild with this pick and go and get themselves a quarterback. And I see why the Giants have moved up here. And it does look like it's going to be Shedeur Sanders based on the fam cam showing us a pretty excitable room there. So, look. It is a team that has Malik Neighbors. It is a team that now has Abdul Carter, so pass rush on the other side. It's a team with an offensive line, which, as we heard this past week on our YouTube channel, where you might be tuning in at NFL, at talkSPORT Endzone, Jermaine Illuminor really does believe that this offensive line can be one of the best in the NFL. So, look, you went and got Jameis, you went and got Russ, but that was never going to be stopping you from getting a quarterback in the future if you wanted to. Darius Slayton came back. I kind of dig it.
This is what we've really been waiting for.
This is Brian Dable taking a swing because he knows that his job is screwed if he doesn't take one.
But I was just going to say, is it Brian Dable or is it Joe Shane or is it John Mara? Are all three? It feels like they're all so undecided in this whole process. Whether it's Shedeur, whether it was going to be Russ, whether it was going to be Jameis. Goodness me, what this could be with pick 25.
It feels like we're back at the top of the draft again, with a trade up for a quarterback. You don't.
Texans have traded the 25th pick to the New York Giants. With the 25th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the New York Giants select Jaxson Dart, quarterback.
It wasn't Sanders. They did move above the Rams to go and get Jaxson Dart. Astonishing stuff. Shedeur Sanders continues to slide, and Jaxson Dart is the second quarterback off the board, lands himself at the New York Giants. That is not what any of us expected.
Yeah, because I think you were right that the Rams were going to potentially try and draft Jaxson Dart, and Jaxson Dart was invited to the NFL draft, which means that he would have had it at some point on semi-decent authority that he could be drafted. Later pulled out of that probably because it was a little bit uncertain. But I mean, Jaxson Dart, I think really, if I'm going to put myself in the Giants' shoes here, I think what they're going to do is actually start or try as best they can, record depending, to start Russ or Jameis, let Dart sit for a minimum of a few weeks, ideally a year. I think this guy needs a year to develop and learn and really pick up on a pro-style offense. Coming from Ole Miss, where there's single step drop backs and there's a lot of half-field reads and predetermined throws, I think this guy needs to sit definitely. But the issue is, though, as we well know, in the history of the NFL, if you draft a quarterback with a first-round pick and your record isn't particularly good, the calls and the pressure to start that quarterback get unbearable, frankly. And I'm worried that the Giants will ruin Jaxson Dart's development by starting him before he's ready.
Yeah, this is it, right? Number one in passing EPA per drop back last year. But Lane Kiffin's offense couldn't be more quarterback-friendly. And when you look at the other players that exist in and around Ole Miss that are going to be drafted out of that team, like he had great talent around him as well. And there's a lot of people who have gone and watched this film and gone, oh, actually, no thank you. But not Joe Shane, but not Brian Dable, but not the ownership and the Mars and everyone else at New York. They have gone Jaxson Dart, first rounder, and will even trade back up and give up 2 third-round picks on top of our second rounder to go and get him. Astonishing stuff.
That is absolutely crazy. I mean, to put it into context, this guy has less than 30 snaps under center. In the modern NFL, you cannot come into at the Senior Bowl. He was struggling to field the ball from his center under center. So this guy's got a lot to learn before he's anywhere near ready. And I think the jump to the pros is going to be difficult for him. But if he is expected to start this year, I think it's going to be like trying to drink through a fire hose for this guy. Like, it's going to be quite overwhelming. And I do think that Russ and Jameis Winston are not going to be enough to keep the fans wanting Dart on the field.
The thing is, right, he is athletic and he can buy time and he does scramble for positive yards and he does do things that catch the eye on a positive basis. But,
oh, my God.
We've got another trade coming in. Let me just finish what I'm saying, then we will get to that. But it is because his eyes drop so quickly. It's because he doesn't do that well under pressure. He doesn't throw with anticipation. It's not progression-based. It is, I've got one read in this play, and if it's not open, I'm going to tuck and run.
Yeah.
And that is the concern with him, is that he's not a guy who's going to be able to make that transition to what an NFL pro-style offense is going to be.
And you know who drops his eyes and tucks and runs? Sam Howell.